Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Taylosive EV live on YouTube. Hope you're having a fantastic Wednesday. Today we have kind of an interesting development. It feels like Tesla's got some interns handling the mobile app or the social media pages because they keep dropping things prematurely. Because two's a pattern, right? It only has to happen twice for you to think that something sus is going down. Because essentially on the Tesla mobile app, there was very briefly an option, and this was in the United States, by the way. Tesla's actually had this in Europe for a while, so if you're watching from Europe, this may not be a new thing to you. But in the US, there was an option in the app for supercharging your non-Tesla. And it was giving you a prompt that I showed in the thumbnail of this live stream. You can go back and look at it real briefly if you want. But in that thumbnail is a screenshot lifted directly from the app. I think Sawyer Merritt at least first pointed it out. Someone may have informed him about it. But from what it looks like, if you subscribe to this Tesla membership, which is 99 cents a month, you get lower price per kilowatt hour for charging, which is essentially the exact same formula that they have set up in Europe. So from what we can tell, there's not a supercharging subscription for Teslas using superchargers. You just get the standard supercharging rate. But if you are wanting to charge your non-Tesla at a supercharger, I guess Tesla will charge slightly higher rates. But if you want more competitive rates or rates that are like what regular Tesla owners get, you just have to subscribe. But I don't even think in Europe it's as low as it was listed in the app in the United States. Here in the US it was listed at 99 cents a month, which is so absurdly low it makes me wonder if it's just like a formality thing, like 99 cents a month, so not even $12 a year. Like, does Tesla even really care or need that money, or is that just kind of a, we need some card on file, and if you sign up for the subscription, that makes plug and charge a lot easier because we know we have like a recurring payment. I don't know if that's it for sure, but it was an interesting development because as soon as people pointed it out, and there were a few news agencies that wrote a story on it, Tesla quickly removed it and it's no longer available in the app. You can't find it anymore. So once again, we have an indication of like something is going on behind the scenes with app development, and something went out when it was not supposed to and it went away. Kind of similar story with the Tesla Semi, which I thought was hilarious. Like, so whoever runs the Tesla Instagram, so Tesla does have, like, it's not a fan page, it's like an official Instagram page. They posted some new footage. I can pull it up here on my phone, I guess. Unfortunately, it's like, yeah, we got more Tesla Semi footage, but it's on Instagram, so it's really compressed, and also it's in vertical, so you don't really get great angles of it. But the footage itself, other than the fact that it was compressed in portrait mode, looked pretty good. And the caption on the story said, like, hey, Tesla's got, I guess we're releasing the Tesla Semi. Let me find the actual thing so I don't misquote it. It said, Tesla Semi ships later this year. And they had some really cool footage of this. And Sawyer was tweeting it out, and a few people were catching it. Is like, hey, we actually have confirmation. It's not just an Elon tweet. Now we have like an official Tesla media page posting that the Semi is launching later this year. But as soon as people pointed that out, like 10 minutes after they posted it, the Instagram page took down the video, so it's no longer visible. You can't find that on their Instagram anymore. So my theory is that there's some intern or someone very, very, low end at Tesla that doesn't, not low end, and I don't mean that in a bad way, just like not a high paying executive runs that Instagram page. And I think that they likely saw Elon's tweet about the Tesla Semi launching early, and they had some Tesla Semi footage that's part of their marketing department, and they're like, hey, Elon said this is launching this year, I guess I'll make a post about it. And then as soon as they did, someone probably told them, hey, I know Elon tweeted that, but it's not confirmed and we're not sure. So the fact that they took down that video actually really, really weakens my confidence in the idea that the idea that the Tesla Semi is launching this year, and it reinforces my concern that Elon is speaking prematurely and sometimes will say things that aren't necessarily true. And often, as more time goes on, it feels like Elon has these like placeholder responses for people on Twitter, even though he's not even really sure what he's talking about. Just based on user data and things the Tesla brand has done versus what Elon has said don't always correlate with each other, which I could go more into. But 99 cents would be awesome for the subscription. Yeah, well, that's the confusing part of these plans. Like, no one actually has supercharged a non-Tesla in the US yet, so we don't know how much lower the cost per kilowatt hour is, but 99 cents is so low, even if it was slightly lower, even if it went from like 30 cents per kilowatt hour to 25 cents, like, you don't have to charge 28 cents. You'd only have to charge like 2 or 3 times for that to be worth it, and you'd actually be saving money on it. Um, Jacob says, I would totally subscribe to that. For my Tesla, road trips are like $100+ in supercharging. Yeah, I mean, they can get up there. I don't. The road trip I plugged in, which is pretty far, it's like a 14 or 15 hour drive to my parents' place. A better route planner has it listed as $60. So you'd have to road trip pretty far or in very high supercharging price areas in order to get over $100. But yeah, if there's any way to lower that, if it's $100 to $90 for 99 cents, then yeah, it's absolutely worth it. I think they should do a discount so I can pay $10 for the year. Again, it's such a small amount of money. I feel like it's negligible. Like $12 per car per year. Like, even if 100,000 non-Teslas are supercharging, that's still like $1.2 million, which to Tesla is chump change. That's not much. Um, let's see. Hey, Top Dog, thanks for joining. Surprised with Tesla opening their chargers up for so cheap. Well, I got they've been pretty clear from the beginning. They're not trying for the superchargers to be like immensely profitable. They're just supposed to kind of break even slash cover expansion costs. They've been pretty upfront about that. Oh, Humboldt says the function is still active on the Tesla app. I heard it was taken away. Maybe I'm not looking in the right place, but I can't seem to find it. Well, there's a charge your non-Tesla prompt, but there's not a subscription from what I can see. I'm not going to show you this because it has my location on the map, so I can't. But yeah, there is, in this section, there is a little tile that says charge your non-Tesla, but when you tap that, it doesn't bring up the subscription or anything. It just shows a map. Charging, manage. Yeah, I don't see anything about the subscription still there. Let's see. Drew for real invented the word non-Tesla. Was it me? I thought other people have said that before. I can't think of a simpler way to put it. Like, how else am I supposed to describe EVs that are not Teslas? Is there a simpler way with less syllables or something? Because I can't figure it out. We need to get you into a Tesla of your own so you can be current. I know. Come on. Elon, where's my freaking car? I actually just the other day, was it yesterday? Oh my God, it was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday I drove by the Fremont factory again, and I rechecked with my sales agent, and I was like, hey, once again, I'm right outside the factory, and I'm pretty close to my delivery window. Can I get my car? And he was like, sorry, you don't have a VIN, so you can't get your car. So I wish I had updates for you, but I'm just trying my best to be patient. I'm trying not to think about it, because the more I think about it, the more impatient I get. It's this vicious cycle, and I'm just like, Drew, it'll come. It'll come. Just relax. Mike says, depends on price/location. I charged up at peak time and paid $30 to go from 10 to 90%. Yeah, I just mean like on a road trip, how many high-use superchargers can you hit in a row? I know that there are high-use superchargers in a city with pretty expensive rates, but if you're going on a big road trip that's, like 10 or 12 hours, are you going to hit all the high-usage stations in LA and then all the high-usage stations in San Francisco? I don't know. Jacob says it was 1,000 miles and all superchargers were over 40 cents a kilowatt hour. It's rare to find one below 40. That's impressive. Yeah, I didn't realize it got that high. I'm sure it's still less than gas, though. I think the only point from what I can recall, someone on a subreddit, I think, was posting in their, how Tesla has like a savings tab where they're like, here's how much you've spent on charging versus how much you would have spent for an equally priced or equally efficient gas car, not efficient, but equally sized gas car, and it shows how much money you've saved on gas. Someone posted in a subreddit that they actually had it to zero, or it was in the negative. So the charging costs were higher. I think the number that you want to be wary of is like 60, from what I can recall. If your supercharging cost starts to exceed 60 cents per kilowatt hour, now you're kind of reaching the point of gas. But frankly, just because I hate gas stations and I would much rather charge from home, I would much rather I would much rather just charge, even if it was the same price as gas. I would rather charge. It's not like after a certain point I would rather go back to gas, because I hate transmission, I hate ignition, and I hate stupid. I had to get gas today, and I'm grinding my teeth the whole time, swiping the card, put it in the code, and trying to get the gas pump to line up, and all these crazy. They play ads on the gas pump, which annoy the heck out of me. Brandon says, do you know how they will be handling adapters? Someone on Reddit said they will add adapters to current superchargers so you don't have to purchase an adapter. Well, what does that mean, Brandon? Someone on Reddit, is that an official source, or is it, because I've heard, I think it was a previous earnings call. I think it was an earnings call last year. Elon made some kind of off the cuff comment. He said something like, yeah, we'll probably be adding adapters or that kind of thing. But he wasn't very specific about the plan. It wasn't like, we're going to add CCS adapters to every single supercharger. That's not what he said. He just said that they would have to do adapters, or at least have charging stations with more than one connector. And again, there's been several comments Elon has made in the past that are indications that he's not quite involved, or that involved with Tesla. And I'm honestly kind of concerned by him saying that the Tesla Semi would launch this year, and then the same Instagram account, Tesla's Instagram account, tried to say that, and then they had to take the video down. So something tells me that Elon spoke too soon on the Tesla Semi and may not know what he's talking about. And it was a similar situation with the mobile connector, because Tesla started not including the mobile connector for new orders, and Elon's justification for it was, well, usage rates were super low. Like, basically, he said not very many people use it, which I had a very hard time believing, because for anecdotal evidence, tons of people I know use the mobile connector. And we also had crowdsourced data from TeslaScope, who is monitoring, I think, like, the charging data of like 3,000 Teslas, which is a very wide sample size. And they said that the mobile connector was the most common form of charging. It was like 60% of all charging was done from the mobile connector. So there was obviously a lot of backlash and a lot of people commenting like, oh, excuse me, I do use it. Even if you want to say like, well, 40% of people aren't, Elon's template response was, data shows that usage rate was super low. So barely anybody's using the mobile connector. And I did not see any concrete data that was proving that to be the case. And even more so later, there was what was it recently? The Model 3 long range, right? That they took down the orders for. Elon's response when people are like, hey, Elon, how come you can't order the long range Model 3 anymore? He said the wait time was too long. It was actually one of the shortest Tesla wait times of all of their vehicles. The Model S, the Model X, the Model Y all had longer waits than the 3. The Model 3 wait time for the long range was like 6 months. Model Y was like 10 to 12 months. Model X was like 12 to 15 months. Model S was like 9 months. So the only vehicles with quicker delivery times than the long range Model 3 was performance versions. So the Plaid, Performance Model 3, Performance Model Ys, those had like 2 to 3 month waits. But as far as non-performance Teslas, the Model 3 long range, not anywhere close to having that long a wait time relative to all the other Teslas. But they turn off that one? And they don't want to turn off Model X orders. They don't want to turn off Model S orders. They don't want to turn off Model Y orders, despite all of the wait times being longer for those vehicles. And yet Elon said, the wait time was too long, and we need time to ramp up production. I was like, to me, that feels like the board made this decision, and Elon just is hearing about it through Twitter and went, oh, the wait time. Yeah, it just, that's his like go-to explanation, even though he's not really completely aware of what's going on. To me, it seems like he's spending a lot of time at SpaceX right now, which is fine. I've got no problem with how he wants to spend his time, but I'm just saying that a lot of Elon's comments feel out of touch or not paying attention. Because, like he said, we're going to turn off orders until we ramp up production. How are they going to ramp up Model 3 production even more? Like, Fremont is almost at max capacity at this point. It'd be one thing if they were planning on adopting casting presses, but Idra's not reported any of that. I think we would have heard about new updated casting press tech if Idra was developing that. And they're still building the Model 3 rear-wheel drive. They're still building the Model 3 Performance. So it's not like an entire Model 3 shutdown. It's just the long range. So my theory for the long range being shut down is that they want the 2170 cells to go into the Model Y, because Giga Texas is ramping up right now and using more and more 2170 cells. So that makes more sense to me than what Elon said, but maybe he just sees, I could be assuming too much. Maybe he sees a bunch of things I don't see. Larry the Lobster says Tesla energy will be huge. Why are analysts so short-sighted? I think it could be huge, but I don't know if I've been hearing that for years now. Okay, I'm speaking as a shareholder at this point. Um, I've been hearing since 2017 that Tesla Energy is going to be just as big as the automotive business, and Tesla Energy is going to be huge, and people don't realize the untapped potential. And every year it's just doing okay. Like, okay, they increased deployments, or okay, they had the best deployments they've had in a year and a half, or but it's still relatively not that big a chunk of the business. Like revenue wise, the cars still are far more profitable than the energy sector. And it's not that the energy business is not important. It's just as long as there's a demand backlog, it will always be more logical to put batteries in cars instead of mega packs and power walls, because those just don't cost as they don't cost as much, and that there's less total demand for those number of cells. So while they're important, and I hope they can ramp up production for them, it's like, okay, if you've found a way to scale up lithium iron phosphate, would it make more sense to sell that in, a $12,000 Powerwall or a $50,000 car? I think they're going to choose the $50,000 car, even if it's technically a bigger battery pack. There's just more profit margins there. So it's one of those like long-term games. Yeah, I do think Tesla Energy will be, a big chunk of the business, but I wouldn't be surprised if it takes decades to get there. I don't think it's going to suddenly explode because we have this big demand backlog, and maybe Tesla could grow the energy business if they caught up on demand, but it's still not happening. Jacob says supercharging has gotten too expensive. I get it's to encourage home charging, but that means there needs to be discounts when you use multiple superchargers in a day. I'm not sure why that means you would need to have discounts. I'm not against the idea of Tesla coming up with some kind of membership feature, like if you're a high supercharging user, you should get you could subscribe so that Tesla has a bit more committed income from you, so they feel more comfortable lowering the prices. But yeah, that's the weird thing, is like they're raising the prices of supercharging quite a bit, and like Jacob is experiencing, there's some expensive supercharging sessions, and people are like, oh, well, that's to encourage home charging, but then at the same time, Tesla's not including mobile connectors anymore. So they're like, you don't need to charge it. Even Elon said that in a reply. He was like, you don't need to charge at home. You can just supercharge. So it's like they can't agree on the argument they're fighting for. They're not really sure. Okay, Skylar says, I wish I had a chance to read the article, but I came across a headline saying something along the lines of German EVs can't legally use Tesla superchargers because they don't list the wattage. Have you heard anything about this? I've only seen a couple headlines. I haven't read into it, but I'm sure it's some stupid legal technicality. But yeah, it sounds like something that should be easily fixed or addressed. It doesn't make me feel like worried for the long-term future of the company. It sounds like one of those stupid little laws that Tesla just finds a quick workaround for. If they have to send someone around all the superchargers in Germany slapping a little wattage sticker on each one. I don't know how they're going to fix it, but it's probably something fairly simple. Do you think Aptera will have access to the superchargers? I think, Brandon, they're going to try the best they can. And I'm convinced that if Apteras don't get to supercharge, or they don't get to use the Tesla connector, it will all be on Tesla. It will be purely because of Tesla. I don't think from what I've seen with the change.org petition and how many great things Aptera has said about the Tesla connector, they clearly want to use it. Like, their day one alpha prototype had a Tesla connector on it, and now they're doubling down on how great the design is, how terrible CCS is. Chris and Anthony from Aptera have made it abundantly clear they do not want to use the CCS connector, and it feels like, they're advocating for Congress to make the Tesla connector a standard. So if the Aptera doesn't get the Tesla port, then it'll be because Tesla didn't let them, or Tesla is not being as open source as they like to admit. I know that there's been claims and statements where they say, all our patents are open source, but why is it so hard for third-party companies to get the Tesla connector then? Because even when Elon said, that's cool that, another company is advocating for our port to become the standard, Aptera replied to him and they were like, we need to talk. So to me, that implies that, like, Aptera wants to do it, but they're not really sure how to. There's not really a process. Who do we email? Who do we contact? Is there a licensing agreement? Is there a what do we do to get the Tesla connector? It feels like there's not really a due process, and I'm going to blame Tesla if they don't get it. Uh, let's see. I use the mobile charger for my 3. Yeah, I feel like, there's definitely some people that don't use the mobile connector. I understand that. I'm not saying everyone uses it. I'm just saying from the data, from the sample sizes I've seen, I have not seen any reputable data that suggests that very few people use the mobile connector. All of the crowdsourced data I've seen says that people do use the mobile connector. Even whole Mars catalog was upset when Tesla said they weren't going to include the mobile connector anymore. And I think it would have been a very different story if they just said the truth, which is, once they added an option at checkout, which is what everyone was suggesting, like when you're ordering the car, if it's not going to come with a mobile connector anymore, you should disclose that and say, like, do you want the wall connector? Do you want the mobile connector? That's going to cost you an extra $200, $400. That disclosure is very helpful. But what we noticed is that when you chose the mobile connector, your wait time got pushed out further. Whereas if you chose the wall connector, you didn't your estimated delivery could stay more true to life. So that little delivery calculator basically confirmed that, okay, the main reason they don't want to include the mobile connector is availability. Because if they're pushing out your order because you want the mobile connector, that means they don't have enough mobile connectors. Basically, they're building more cars than mobile connectors. So that would have been a different story if they just said, like, we have a shortage of mobile connectors, so we're going to stop including them with the car, and, we could give you a credit, like, which is what they just did to me. I don't know if you guys saw that tweet, but they emailed me today, even though I ordered back in March, which is technically on Tesla's website, it says if you've ordered your car after April 26th, I believe. If you ordered after April 26th, you don't get the mobile connector for free, but if you ordered before that, you will get the mobile connector for free. So I'm well within the window, and yet they sent me an email today that said, have a $200 credit towards the Tesla shop, which completely covers the cost of a mobile connector. And your car comes with a J1772, but that's it. It didn't say your car comes with a mobile connector. So I reached out to my support agent, and I was like, hey, I just got this email. Does this mean I'm not getting the mobile connector? And he said, yeah, your car won't come with it, but if you want to order one from the Tesla shop, we will, we'll cover it. It'll be free to you. You won't have to spend $200. So it's like, technically, I am getting the mobile connector, just not at delivery. And nowhere on the website did the Tesla shop say, like, estimated shipping. Like, does it ship in 6 weeks? Does it ship in 2 days? I have no idea. So there's a chance, I hope this doesn't happen, but there's a chance that I could get the car and not have a way to charge it from home for, like, several weeks, which would be quite frustrating. So I hope that doesn't happen. Mr. Gamer says, do you know if the Tesla Model Y qualifies for the tax credit? So I should just mention that the tax credit is freaking confusing. It's very weirdly worded, and it has these very specific rules about what percentage of the battery pack is assembled in the U.S. and where the materials in the battery pack came from. So the old federal tax credit, which has now been scrapped, so even if you take delivery of a Rivian or a Lucid, you're not going to get the $7,500 tax credit if you take delivery before the end of the year. So those companies used to qualify for the old tax credit, but Biden scrapped those. For the future, right? We're in this weird limbo state. It's probably going to result in a bunch of people delaying their order because they're trying to get their car qualified for the tax credit. But so none of the new tax credits apply until next year. And I'm pretty sure that the Model Y does qualify because the limit for SUVs and crossovers is $80,000, which currently the Model Y is under 80. I don't know if it'll stay that way because it's gone up a lot in the past year. But for now, yes, I do think that the Model Y at least qualifies for part of the tax credit. I've talked to a few people on Twitter that have read more in depth and have a bit more experience with, legal talk and tax credit documents and stuff like that. And they've said that the long-range Model Y should qualify, but I think part of the issue is in order to get the full $7,500, you have to get batteries from a certain number of, from a localized supply chain. And if you don't reach a certain percentage, then you don't get the full tax credit. And we don't know those percentages because we don't know the supply chains of the Model Y battery pack. I know they're 2170s, and we know those are probably built in Giga Nevada, but where the raw materials come from for those 2170s, we don't have all the answers for. But I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure the Model Y will qualify, but again, I'm not like 100%. It's very confusing. And from what I've read, the Model 3 rear-wheel drive, which I'll be getting, doesn't qualify for anything. There's still people going back and forth on it that can't agree on it, but because it uses lithium iron phosphate battery packs, which are basically all built in China and shipped over here, from what I've seen, that means it won't qualify for any of the new tax credits. So basically, from what I've read, and again, I could be wrong, I'm very fuzzy on this whole tax credit thing because of how confusing the wording is that the Model 3 rear, the only Tesla that qualifies for the tax credit is the Model Y. Both the long range and the performance, which are already very expensive vehicles, so shaving off $7,500. Okay, now it's not $66,000, now it's $58,500. So cheap, right? I mean, it's as cheap as it was 7 months ago. Now with this new tax credit, you can get pricing of the Model Y back in November and December. But if there's another demand wave, I would totally understand Tesla raising the prices again. And that's with the base model. You know, if you upgrade the wheels or the colors, it's more than $70,000. So it's pretty confusing. Let's see. Another thing people don't realize: when FSD is good as a human, this is not the ceiling. It will eventually become a superhuman driver and become the safest form of transport. I'm just more of a when, not an... I'm just more of an if, not a when, I guess, Larry. Like, I used to think that way. I used to be like, FSD is coming and it's going to be safer than a human and it's going to be... But that I used to feel that way back in 2018. And I saw Autopilot and I saw Tesla show these demos. And then in 2019, I watched Autonomy Day and they told me how they have this great roadmap on how they're going to make robotaxis a reality. And then 2019 finished and then 2020 came around and we got the beta. And I thought, wow, this beta is so cool. It's handling turning on city streets. This is amazing. Imagine how good the software is going to be in a year. And it's like, here we are halfway through 2022 and it's definitely better than it used to be, but has Tesla assumed any more liability at all? No, in fact, they've actually made it worse. So like now, not only do you have to keep your hands on the wheel, but they're tracking your eyes. In fact, they'll punish you and they may kick you off the beta if they detect your eyes darting away from the road. So like, yes, capability has improved a lot over the past few years, but in order to get to the point of safer than a human, and for that to actually matter, Tesla's going to have to assume more liability, and so far they've shown no interest in assuming more liability. Which means, yeah, okay, the car is very capable and it can do a lot by itself, but you also need to keep your hands on the wheel, keep your eyes on the road, and you have to sit there and you can't look away and you can't not pay attention. So that's kind of my whole desire for autonomy. That's what I want the car to drive itself for, is so that I don't have to pay attention. So, yeah. It's one of those things that I've turned into more of like I'll believe it when I see it, because I used to think that way about FSD years ago, and now years and years have gone by and I'm still waiting, and I'm like, come on, you know, like, is this going anywhere, or are we just doing these little incremental upgrades? Apparently, when is it, August 20th, we're supposed to get FSD beta 10.69, and maybe that'll be way, way better. But I've heard Elon hype up updates before, you know, like a year and a half ago, he was saying how version 9 or version 8 is so good, I hardly ever have to intervene. And there's still some pretty drastic issues that prevent it from going completely level 3. There are a bunch of mobile connectors on Facebook Marketplace to hold you over. Well, depends on your area, but that's a good idea, Tim. Once again, I have the Tesla shop that gave me a promo code, so I can get the, let me just check here. See, if I get the mobile connectors on Facebook, I have to drive my gas car to pick it up. They're all $200 or more. People are selling them for $300, $500. Oh my God. My area is not that good. I'm looking for all of Marketplace. There's not any near me because I live in a fairly rural area, but all the ones outside of my area are selling for $200 or more. And I would have to drive to them. So Tesla offered me a mobile connector for free using a promo code. And they were like, you could use that towards a wall connector, or if you just plan on, using superchargers or third-party chargers, you could use that Tesla shop credit towards accessories. And I was like, no, 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 I need the charger. I was like, I don't care about any of that other stuff. Give me the charger. That's what I'm interested in. If I care about any of those other accessories, I'll just buy them. Do the chips in the car affect the tax credit? I'm really not the right person to ask, but all I can tell you is you should not put that much faith in the tax credit. I don't think it's going to change that much. Vehicles that you actually want to buy are likely going to get more expensive if there's another wave of orders. Once there's like a document, I don't know if there is one yet, but once the government like posts an official document that says, here are all of the EVs that qualify for the full $7,500 tax credit. Here's all the EVs qualifying for half of that tax credit, which is like $3,750. Once that's published, you're probably just going to see a bunch of price hikes, and the prices will ultimately not be that different. So I wouldn't put too much weight in it. Let's see. We also used to think that computers would never be small enough to fit in your pocket. It is absolutely a question of when, hopefully in our lifetime. Yeah, I never thought that. When I was a kid, I had iPods, and I knew phones were good. I used to think we would be able to charge over the air, and we're not there yet. Maybe some people dreamed smaller, but I just kind of waited for reality to step in. Once I started seeing phones support wireless charging, I thought, oh, it's only a matter of time before we start support charging over the air. And that's always been like, well, maybe in 2 years, maybe in 3 years they'll do that. And it never happens because it's too dangerous and too sketchy. So sometimes there's tech that people love to talk about being 2 to 3 years away, and then it never actually is launching. Kind of like hydrogen cars. It's easy to say like any new technology is like, well, it could be the next iPhone. We never thought the iPhone. It's like, no, some tech is just not a thing. Some tech we thought would be a thing never becomes a thing. It's okay. Like, Tesla will live on. I don't think they have to get full self-driving working to succeed. But there's a lot of tech ideas that people thought would happen that don't. If you ask people in the 50s what they thought the future would be, they would have thought flying cars would become the norm by the 2020s. Just watch it, Back to the Future. And flying cars are not a thing, even though a lot of people thought they would be. And charging over the air is not a thing, despite a lot of people thinking that's what the future is going to be. You just walk in a room and your phone starts charging, and you don't have to plug it in or put it on a charge mat. And there's been very limited, very basic forms of that, but it's never at a high enough charge rate to actually give your phone juice. And yeah, it's just some tech doesn't make it. Same with hydrogen cars. A lot of people are like, well, one day when we lower the price of hydrogen and we build up a bunch of hydrogen fueling stations, it'll become the norm. And it's like, no, sometimes it doesn't happen. And that's kind of how I feel about full self-driving, is it's one of those things that's like, oh, maybe next year, maybe next year, maybe next year. And Elon's been saying next year for 7 years. And I'm just asking, like, at what point do you acknowledge it's a failure? Like, if you keep saying, like, well, it's coming, but it's just a little late, or it will come, it's just a little late. Like, if 20 years go by, are you still not going to count it as a failure? Are you still going to say it's late? How about 50 years? If 50 years go by and it's still not a thing, are you going to say, well, maybe next year? Like, at what point do you draw the line? That's my question. Michael says, is there a reason you don't want the wall connector? Yeah, it's simple. It's way more expensive. It's an extra $200, and it's not that much different from the NEMA outlet. Plus, I can take the NEMA outlet with me if I go on a trip or something, or I'm visiting friends and family. I've been to friends and family's houses that have NEMA outlets, and if I want to fast charge at the people I'm visiting, I can take that NEMA outlet and go about my business. But the wall connector just stays planted to the house. And for the sake of privacy, I'm not going to show the outside of my house, but where the wall connector would have to go is not very convenient. It would cost way more money to install the wall connector where it would need to be to charge the car. So I don't really see a point in it. It's not really that much faster than just the NEMA outlet, and I can take the NEMA outlet with me. So anyway, FSD in current state is just cruise control plus. That's a term for it. I think it's cool, and I think it's an admirable field to go after. I think that there's a lot of people just assuming it's going to be solved, even though it's never been done before. There's a chance it's impossible. You can't say it's possible if it's never been done, right? Like, that's like me saying we just, eventually if we think hard enough, we can move objects with our brain. It's like, I don't think that's possible. It's like you can't say with 100% certainty that level 5 autonomy is possible if it's never been achieved. It's one of those things that, okay, when it becomes a reality, I'll admit that it's possible, but it's not happened yet. Um, let's see. I don't want a car charger because I already own one and I have never used it in the 6 years. I understand. Some people already have their charger, but I don't think that's most when we have data on that. If you're the type of person that doesn't need an additional one, that's fine. But how many people were getting the connector with their car and selling them? That's what I was discovering, is there were a lot of people saying, like, I never used the mobile connector that came with my Tesla. It's like, so why'd you keep it? You could have sold it. You could have just take that $200, put it towards something else, and you chose not to. Why? Because it's a nice to have on those certain trips. And it would be one thing if they were getting rid of the mobile connector and lowering prices, but Tesla was getting rid of the mobile connector and raising prices. So your logic of, why would I pay for a mobile wall charger when I don't, it's like, you're not paying for it. They're raising the prices and getting rid of things. If it was saving them money by getting rid of it, that you would have a point, but they're not passing those savings on to you. And if anything, they're raising the prices and getting rid of stuff. Printers still need inks. Think about that. I hate printers. We need better printers. I don't own one, though. Who is this person that gave you a shop promo code? It wasn't a person. It was just an email from Tesla. It's, let me look here. Yeah, the address is just Tesla. I think I can show this, yeah. It's just, redeem your charging solution. Here's your code. That's it. You know, it's not a person. So I was like, okay, why did they email me this if I'm getting a mobile connector with my car? At first I was like, yay, Tesla's hooking me up with some free shop credit. That was nice of them. And then I was like, wait a minute, this is Tesla we're talking about here. They wouldn't be doing like random giveaways for no reason. So I reached out to the support agent and he was like, yeah, no, you're not getting the connector, but you can buy one for free. So I was like, why are they in stock, but you're not including them on orders that you said would include them? Like, they're phasing out the mobile connectors prematurely. They must be really limited on supply. I don't know. I keep seeing people that choose to buy a mobile connector and then still get one with the car, and now they have two. I'll sell mine. I won't keep two. I have no point in keeping two. If I go on a trip, I'm going to take it with me. So I would like to... I wouldn't be upset if I found out that my car came with a mobile connector, but I literally have my support agent telling me no. That's the guy that works for Tesla telling me, no, your car won't come with one. So, I don't... should I just assume he's wrong and not buy one and then not have a way to charge my car when it gets here? I'd rather not make that assumption. If I'm wrong, then I'll sell it on Facebook for $200 and then put that money towards... anything else, groceries, errands, invested in the stock, because we're getting the stock split soon, right? When is that? Isn't that this month? I forgot. That's coming up. You guys are probably going to answer it. I don't know why people hype up the stock splits so much, but they do. People love talking about them. August 24th. Oh, okay, that's coming up. That's next week. That's 1 week from today. We're going to have the 3-for-1 stock split. What is the stock at now? 911. Never forget. Okay, so it'll be 303. I can't quite buy a whole share, but buy something. Buy some share with some dividends or something. There's a bunch of people texting me. Let's see. Public ridicule in NHTSA has made Tesla focus on your face during FSD. I know, but that's proven that we're not getting closer. If you think that public ridicule in NHTSA is slowing down the autonomous capability of full self-driving, then what do you think is going to happen when Tesla tries to do level 4? Or even level 3? Just when Tesla tries to roll out a version of full self-driving where you don't have to pay attention, and we already have all of the scrutiny going on, like... yeah, no, it's there's all kinds of hurdles. There's all kinds of obstacles preventing full self-driving. I don't think legally is the biggest problem right now. It's getting the software to work reliably and handling all situations. And it handles a lot of situations well, but still a lot pretty poorly. But even once it is reliable enough, there's still a whole legal battle that people have to jump through. Buy the mobile charger. If he says it won't have it, it won't have it. Yeah, I did. It's already ordered. I have no idea when it gets here. Tim says, please run by your service center and ask if they have any lying around. I can't really easily run by my service center. It's like over an hour away from me. It's not very close by. Yeah, like Michael said, I would rather have two than be stuck with none. Exactly. I would prefer that too, because you can always sell one if you don't need it. Steve says, I got my Model Y less than 2 weeks ago and it came with the mobile charger, so this is new. Yeah, my support agent said they're currently phasing it out. So it's very possible that people today are getting the charger and people tomorrow might not, based on the sound of it, because they're offering me to pay for it and the support agent is saying I don't have it. I'm hearing you say that since it's never been done before, it's not possible, and I feel like that's a really short-sighted argument. A newborn has never walked before, so he never will. No, but we've seen billions of people at one point not be able to walk and then over time learn to walk. We've never seen someone come up with a car that can drive itself everywhere a human can. That's not the same thing at all. Like someone in growth development stage is not the same as saying a car can drive anywhere a human can, and be better at it or safer at it. Another big issue that I don't see very many people talk about with full self-driving is like, okay, let's say it's safer than a human, but it's probably never going to be perfect. Let's say it's like 1% better. So on average, humans are pretty bad drivers. They cause a lot of collisions. They cause a lot of deaths, frankly. And I think there's been data that shows humans are getting worse at driving. So there's been an increase in the number of deaths. And let's say all of the data we have on FSD proves that they can reduce the number of deaths by 10%. So that doesn't mean no deaths. It means that there will still be people that die with full self-driving. But the difference is, when human drivers fail and when a human causes a car accident that kills someone, there's due process. They are usually charged either with manslaughter or DUI or whatever. Why were they checking their phone? Were they texting and driving? We revoke their license. They get arrested or they get prison time based on the severity of the collision, and they are penalized, or if you get enough speeding tickets, you have to go to driving school. So there's a penalty and a process to punishing people for not being good drivers. What's the due process for full self-driving? Because it's one stack of software, one package of code going to millions of vehicles potentially. And if they're killing people, who's in trouble? Do the software engineers get charged with manslaughter? Do you ban just one singular car? That wouldn't really make sense, because that same car is running the same software as thousands of other cars. So the whole legal process of what to do when robo-taxis kill people, even if they're killing less people, even if it's a reduction in deaths, there's still a big liability and a big legal battle that we haven't figured out yet. Like, there's we're not at that stage in development. Get says, dude, you are old enough to know when a computer couldn't fit in your pocket. Tried 20 years before the iPhone. I'm 24 years old. When I was born, iPods were like, iPods weren't a thing when I was born, but they were a thing before I started like recording memories. I was 3 years old when the iPod came out, and there were phones at that time. There were even smarter phones with keyboards like Blackberries, which are technically computers. So no, not really. I've had the futuristic mindset for a while that technology will get smaller and miniaturized. And I just think it's a false comparison to be like, see, since technology has gotten smaller, robo-taxis will become a reality. It's like, that's not the same thing. Just because one part of technology has improved a lot. It's like saying CGI in Jurassic Park was really good, and now CGI is gotten even better. So that means that one day we will have flying cars. Like, it's not the same comparison. They're two different fields of tech. Certain areas of tech improve a lot and get much, much better. Other fields of tech don't improve at the rate we expect them to and end up not being a thing, like classic hydrogen fuel cells. Clues about charging an EV. The wall charger is way faster. I've seen videos. It's 45 miles an hour versus 30 miles an hour. I don't, like, if you're charging overnight, personally, I don't think it's that big a difference, because if you plug in overnight, I'm getting a full charge on 30 miles an hour anyway. So whether I finish charging my car to full at 3 in the morning or 5 in the morning, doesn't make a big impact to me because I'm probably not going anywhere at that time. And you can schedule charging. I actually, when we first installed the NEMA outlet, my wife was still commuting to work. That was before COVID. And we thought, we were going to be driving a certain number of miles, something like 40 or 50 miles a day. Now that my wife doesn't have to commute to work anymore because there's been more working from home and she doesn't even have that same job anymore, our driving style has changed a lot. If I could do it again, I wouldn't get the NEMA outlet. I would charge off the 110 because on average we drive less than 50 miles a day. There's occasional road trips, but obviously when I'm road tripping, I'm charging at Superchargers anyway. But I could easily get the car to 100% as often as I needed just with the 110 outlet. So I really don't see the point in spending extra. But am I going to spend an extra $200 so that my car finishes charging at 3 in the morning instead of 5 in the morning? No, not really. The liability coverage will be handled with Tesla insurance. Again, that sounds right. Like you would assume that would happen, but so far Tesla has not confirmed that. Tesla has not said that we will assume liability for potentially thousands of deaths, because that would be extremely expensive and it would be a huge bottleneck on the company and they'd probably get sued a lot. There's a lot of people that get sued and get sent to prison because they were bad drivers or they were using expired licenses and then they went off and killed people. So Tesla's just going to assume all liability for all the robotaxis that cause damages or cause deaths. Even if they're safer than a human, they still happen. And again, if full self-driving was getting that good to the point that Tesla would assume liability, I would say it's a lot closer. But the fact that they haven't done that and it's halfway through 2022 and we've had the beta now for several years and it's still in that level 2 state, I'm like, I'll believe it when I see it. I'll happily be proven wrong because I do think the concept of robotaxis is fun and it's great to theorize, like, oh, think of how much money you can make and how cheap it was to just ride around in a vehicle that can drive itself. Like, there's all these possibilities. I'm not against that idea. I'm just saying I've been hearing them say next year for 7 years, and how many years have to go by before you say, like, maybe they don't know what they're talking about? Does it need to be 20 years, 50 years, 100 years before you say maybe they don't know? Or can they get away with saying next year for 100 years and you would still buy it? You'd still you'll be like, yeah, okay, yeah, we're technically closer now. Tesla is saving money by losing the mobile charger. Not enough people are using it. Yeah, but they're not passing it on to you. So your argument of saying, why would I pay extra for a mobile charger? You're not. You're paying more than you were before. People who got the mobile charger included were paying less for their Tesla than you are. So yeah, Tesla gets to gain that profit, but they're not passing the savings to you. So they're just, I guess, rearranging the format to make sure that the only people getting the mobile connector are people that absolutely need it. But I still think the phase out of it is very bizarre because they have it still listed right on the website. It says if you've ordered your car after April 26th or April 28th or something like that, you do not get the mobile connector, which implies that everyone before this date gets the mobile connector. You may not need it, you may not care about it, but that's what the website says. And already they are taking away the mobile connector for people that ordered before that date, even though the mobile connector's in stock. So they have them available, like you can buy them, but they're not including them with the vehicles that they said would include them. Like, that's confusing to me. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. Definitely things that need to be figured out, but that still doesn't mean it can't happen. I'm not saying it can't. I'm just not saying it will. I'm saying it's an if, not a not. I'm saying it's not 100% possible and it's not 100% impossible. But there's a lot of people in the chat and a lot of people in the FSD topics that are just saying it's a when, which implies that it's a 100% certainty it will happen. I'm saying it's like a 40%, maybe 50%. Like, it's a toss-up. It might happen, it might not happen. I'm trying to be realistic, trying to set expectations because there's a lot of disappointment in the community, and I've seen people expect robotaxis by a certain point, and then they're delayed, maybe next year, over and over again. And I think it starts to sound pretty ridiculous. If full self-driving were to exist in the mainstream, self-driving car owners could be exempted from driver's license laws, and it would enable disabled people to have better accessibility with travel. I agree, that would be fantastic, but it's going to require the government to be reasonable and logical, and look at the tax credit they just passed, trying to provide $7,500 tax breaks to hybrids with 7 kilowatt-hour battery packs. They're not a very logical, like, don't expect the government to do the right thing, because our government definitely doesn't. It just revoked all the tax credits for the remainder of 2022. So it's like, yes, that there's the theoretical possibilities of full self-driving are great. Like, you could, people with accessibility issues could easily have a lot more freedom. There'd be a lot safer roads. There'd be less people dying. Yes, there's all benefits to it existing. But because of how great that future would be, because of how awesome that scenario is, I'm trying to taper expectations and stop acting like that's a guarantee that 100% will happen. You don't know that. It could, but it's not 100% certain. Like, if it's never been done before, it's not like confirmed, which I try to not use that word as much as possible when something isn't confirmed. Let's see. You will regret not getting a wall charger. It takes 48 hours to charge. Okay, you blame me for not knowing what I'm talking about, and then you say it takes 48 hours to charge. First of all, you are not charging from 0% every single day. Second of all, I have a 62 kilowatt hour battery pack. If I can charge with a 50 amp plug, a 62 kilowatt hour battery pack, no, that does not take 48 hours to charge. In fact, that takes, it's around like 25 to 30 miles an hour. So it doesn't even take 12 hours to charge. So please don't blame people for not knowing what they're talking about and then you yourself not know what you're talking about. That makes no sense. If the legal FSD liability for accidents can use similar as train, airline, etc., flying is safer than driving. Airlines have legal liability, similar legal model. Yeah, but airlines have been around for a long time and they're a lot more regulated than cars. In fact, as crazy as it is, airplanes are... There's a lot less things that can go wrong in the air. You're not dealing with as many edge cases. You're not dealing with as many obstacles. Like, there's still challenges, but there's a reason that autopilot has existed on planes a lot longer than it has on cars. And there's a reason there's a lot more deaths by car than there are by plane. But yeah, like, all of these things we keep talking about are hypotheticals. Well, Tesla will assume liability, or the government will enable people to not have driver's license. It's like, yeah, that sounds great, but when is it actually going to happen? And we keep, like, I want to see reality actually unfold, and a lot of the times we're not seeing it. Phones are shipped without chargers now. Yeah, but that's because most people have chargers. I don't think that argument holds up. Like, I defended Apple ditching the charge brick on the iPhone because I realized that the majority of people buying iPhones already have iPhones, and they can continue to charge their new iPhone with the exact same charger of their old iPhone. That argument doesn't work with electric vehicles. Like, 99% of the market is still driving gas cars. Like, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's probably something like 80 to 90% of all EV buyers have never owned an EV before. Tesla proved that in their impact report or something. They were like, we're not competing with other EVs. We're taking gas cars off the road. And they showed, like, the percentages of all of the vehicles being traded in when people buy Teslas. And they were basically all saying, like, 95% of the vehicles that people trade in are gas cars. So you can't use that argument that, well, we don't need to include the mobile connector because most people already have a mobile connector. No. Like, some people do. Yeah, I know some people are buying their 4th or 5th or 8th Tesla because they bought so many Teslas already and they just want to have the latest, greatest thing. Sure, those people don't need mobile connectors, but that's not the majority. Like, 90% of people buying EVs are buying them for the first time right now because we're very early in the S adoption curve. Whereas most people buying iPhones today already have iPhones. Or if they don't have an iPhone, they already have a phone of some kind that charges with a brick. And the iPhone came with a USB-C to Lightning cable. So if you had an Android before, it was most likely charging with a USB-C brick, which you can use the included cable to continue charging your iPhone. So it's not... To me, that's not a fair comparison to be like, well, iPhone doesn't come with it, so Tesla doesn't have to either. It's like, nah, doesn't work for me. Organica says, did they really remove the license plate bracket, or is that trolling? I just read that they removed the Chrome bracket. I didn't read super into that story, but I guess I'll find out, hopefully, if I take delivery soon. Tesla, let me check. License plate bracket. Front license. No, that's not it. Where is it? All you get are ads now when you search stuff. Man, I can't even find it. All I get are ads. I remember reading the headline for that, but now I can't find it. Maybe it was a troll. Maybe I'm missing something. Huh. Weird. Okay. Not sure what it means. Yeah, I guess I don't have the answer. I don't know. But I definitely saw articles that they weren't include. I just remember reading that it was something about the color of the adapter. Like it'll still hold a license plate what they include. It just won't have the surrounding bracket. Um, hmm. Yeah, it's weird. If it's I don't know, like Tesla's very good at streamlining things and ramping up production, and they're pretty good at like finding the slow points and finding like the bottlenecks. And I don't know for sure, but I'm gonna assume that if there's some small detail they change, it's because they found a way to accelerate deliveries or accelerate production. Because if there's, I agree, like if there's a small thing like a license plate bracket and you're limited on those, and you're gonna slow down deliveries because you don't have enough of those brackets, like yeah, I would agree, just take those out. Like okay, if that's gonna slow down our deliveries, we have more important things to worry about. We need to focus on ramping up production, not focus on making sure every car comes with a chrome license plate bracket. So if it's little things like that, yeah, I get it. But I don't know if that's exactly it. Maybe it's just a cost cutting thing. Like we could save $10 a piece if we don't buy these. All right, well, then we save $10 a piece if we're building, 300,000, 400,000 EVs a quarter. That kind of stacks up. We potentially saved over $1 million just by leaving out that little thing, and probably most people won't notice or care. Oh, Steve says Model Y long range 2 weeks ago came with chrome license plate holder and adapter for front plate. Yeah, I think this was a pretty recent change, so I wouldn't be surprised if your recent delivery got one. From what I recall, I read about it. It was a pretty new thing. I don't remember how long ago it was, but I feel like it was less than a week ago I saw the update for that. Intel Mac Mini is an excellent iPhone charger. Yeah, I'm just excited. Frankly, after the last drive, like yesterday, I drove for 7 hours in my gas car. I'm so sick of it. And one thing, very little thing that it's not exclusive to Tesla, but one thing I'm very much looking forward to is just having a charger in the car. There's not like a built-in USB port anywhere in my old Sonata, and we have to use the little adapter 12-volt thing, and we got to bring our own dedicated lightning cable or dedicated wireless charger to charge my wife's phone or my phone. And when you're on maps for hours and hours throughout the day, your phone starts to die faster, and 5G drains the battery faster. So yeah, like I'm so looking forward to the fact that when I get my car, I know Keith, you would know if I had the Tesla. I'll make a big deal about it. I'm just looking forward to being able to drop my phone on the wireless charger and boom, it just starts charging. That's going to be such a big relief compared to dealing with all the wires and cables and adapters I got to deal with right now. So frustrating. Not only that, but I won't have to rely on the GPS navigation of my phone because I can just put in the route on the car. So it's not going to drain my phone battery that fast anyway because I won't be using the Maps app as frequently. So little things like that don't feel like a big upgrade. It's like, to me, it's all those little things stacking up. Like, I think I want to, like, before I get my car, I want to just review. This sounds backwards and a lot of people probably won't like it, but I just want to review my car on the channel. Just one gas car. And I'll just say, this is the only gas car I'll ever review. This is the only time I'll ever talk about ownership of a gas car. But I just want people to have perspective on the car I'm coming from before I get the Model 3. Because I think most of you know about the Model 3. Either you already own one, or we talk about it all day. You know about the batteries, you know about the design, you know about the AMD Ryzen chips and everything. So I would just say, yeah, we've got the Model 3 down, but you guys should see what I'm coming from, and that'll probably help you understand the tiny things that stack up for me and why I'm so excited for the car. For the big reasons like the battery and charging from home and all that, but also the little things do make a big impact. I don't plan on getting PPF on the front. No, I'm not one of those guys that cares a lot about the paint or the exterior. If you see the outside of my current car, you'll know why. I acknowledge that I could change. Maybe when I get the car, I'll be like, wow, this is so drastically different, or this is so pretty. I want to preserve it. I want to protect it. But if you're asking me just how I feel right now, I'm like, no, I know the car will get old. I know the car will get dirty. I know the paint is going to show scratches over time. And I would kind of just rather the car, I get used to it being the car. And the longer I try to baby it, the more disappointed I'm going to get. The more I'm just like, oh, I can't stand this little scratch. Oh, there's a little bug mark right here. It's like, I don't want to focus on those little details. I just want to drive the thing. I'm more interested in how the interior ages, not so much the exterior. So I'm not super concerned. Like, yeah, I know it will age and it'll probably chip or it'll probably scratch or whatever. And I'm just like, eh. Would you be reviewing your current car? Yeah, I'd be reviewing the car that I've owned for the past 5 years. So you guys understand, like, okay, this is what Drew's been living with. So now we'll understand why the Model 3 is such a big deal to him, because some people may be upgrading to the Model 3 from like a 2018 Volkswagen, and they're like, yeah, okay, I kind of miss CarPlay, but what? It's like, if you see how low end, how basic, and how crappy the car I currently drive is, you'll understand why I think the Model 3 is such a massive upgrade, even though it's, in the grand scheme of the EV space, it's really not the most luxurious. It's no Lucid, it's no Model S, it's no Rivian. It's not nearly as fancy as some other EVs on the market, but you'll understand why I'm such a big fan of it once you see, like, oh, that's what Drew's coming from? Okay, I get it. All Tesla chargers are getting more and more expensive. There are chips in there. One mobile connector could mean one less car. Yeah, I said, like, the logic of removing them because they're limited on supply makes sense, but that's not what Elon said. And also, they're removing them from prior orders that they previously said would include them, which I think is a little weird. It's like, yeah, if you're saying that you can build cars faster than mobile connectors, that's fine. And they at first came forward with a statement saying if you ordered your car after this date, you won't get the connector, but if you ordered before this date, you will. We're clear on that. Now Tesla's changing it. Actually, we're going to take out the mobile connector if you ordered all the way back in March. It's like, why? But they're in stock. It's like, you could just stay true to your word. You had a plan to phase them out, and now you're changing the plan even more so. Do you need to? Like, why bother? You should totally film a video about the reasons why the Sonata is inferior. I think I'll highlight the pros and cons. Of course, it's mostly cons, but there are a few advantages that the Sonata has. So I'd highlight those and be like, this is actually a little bit of a compromise by going with the Model 3. It doesn't do what the Sonata does in this regard. Borganta says, am I keeping my gas car? I think we will, just for a little while. I don't think long term we want to. But only because we have a lot of family and friends that visit from out of town that like fly in. And it's kind of nice to have an additional car for them to drive around town and visit other family and friends. Right now they have to borrow cars, and oftentimes they're borrowing cars from people that kind of need them. So because of how, like, my parents basically come to visit every couple of months, and they don't have a car down here, so they have to borrow my aunt's car, but she also wants that car for other, for her own reasons. So having an extra car down here that my parents can use, I think will be kind of handy. So we'll try it. And, I've also read a few horror stories online that I'm a little bit worried about. I don't know how common of a scenario it is, but I've seen a lot of people post like, I got my car, great delivery experience, I had a great day, and I drove it home, I plugged it in, and then the next day it was dead and it wouldn't start up again. And I had to call a tow truck, or I had to call a service center. And I don't think it's a super common scenario, but I've read more than one instance of people getting their car and then it just dying really quickly, or dying as they're driving it on the freeway. And then they have to get it towed to the nearest service center, and then sometimes they have to wait weeks before they can get the car back. So if that situation comes up, it's going to be really nice to have a backup car that you can drive to the service station and back. In fact, I've been seeing people complain about Tesla service, saying that they used to cover Uber credits, or they used to give you rental cars, and now they're not even doing that. They used to be like, okay, we'll tow it and we'll give you a loaner, and now they're not even doing loaners. So they're cutting back on the benefits of customer service. So that makes me want to have a car as a backup, at least during the first few months of ownership. Maybe once we've had the Tesla for a while and it's proven to be reliable after a couple of weeks, then I'd be like, okay, this is working. and we're not really using the old Sonata very often. I think we're feeling comfortable selling it. So we'll see. I ideally don't want to. I would rather just have the Tesla. I don't like driving the Sonata. There's not like a use case of like, well, if I drive a long distance, I want this. No, like I don't want to pay for gas. I don't want to not have autopilot. It's like I don't want to drive the car, but there's a few circumstances where having a plan B car would be kind of handy. So we're not, basically, to answer your question, we're not going to sell it like immediately. We might sell it after a couple months or next year or something, but we'll see. We'll see. Skylar says, I also think it would be really interesting to see you compare your Tesla to a luxury gas car. Is it even possible to call a gas car luxury if you don't EV? I don't think so. I've zacked out, like, I have some family friends that buy nicer cars than I do and fancier cars, and I've never seen any luxury car from Mercedes or, I don't know, Lexus, whatever brand you want to talk about, BMW. I've never seen a luxury car that gets displays, software, autopilot, and self-driving tech as good as Tesla does, which to me are the most luxurious features. The screen, the responsiveness, the fact that I can pull up the web browser, watch YouTube videos, and summon the car with FSD package, and walk up to the car and it just unlocks in Sentry mode, and I can view the cameras from my phone. I have not seen any luxury car come anywhere close to prioritizing the features that I deem as luxury. All I've seen is like massaging seats and leather and like fragrances that come out. But still, even on those super expensive luxury cars, they have user interfaces that look like 20 years old. They look very dated. So yeah, I'm not convinced. I don't think it would be that interesting of a video. It would probably just get a lot of hate because there'd be people who like the gas car that see it in the thumbnail and title, and they're like, hey, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just a fanboy. So I'm like, you know what? I don't need to fight with those people. Demand for Teslas is high enough already. We don't need to somehow convince all of the luxury gas car people that they need to buy Teslas, because there's already like a 6 to 15 month wait for most Teslas. So let's not increase demand any more than we need to. Let's see. New car smell is one of the best and satisfying experiences. And it's nice, but it'll go away. It's temporary. You should see Red Fox. She does not hold up well in modern day vehicles. Yeah, based on what you've said, Alpha, I totally believe you. What kind of charger do you use? Is a 110 charger enough? So I don't have an EV yet, but I have a 240 volt outlet that I'm gonna charge using a NEMA 1450 adapter. I already have the adapter, but now the mobile connector I just ordered is gonna come with one. So I kept this quiet for a long time, but now that we've ordered the Tesla, we're okay talking about it. But we were actually planning on buying a Model 3 way back in 2019, and we bought the NEMA 1450 adapter because we thought we were like a month or two away. Back then, you could buy a Tesla and get it within a couple of weeks, but financial situations were, oh my God. Thanks for the chat. Use this to start a fund for your wall charge. Thank you so much for the super chat. Very generous of you. I appreciate it, but there's no need for, again, I would show you if I didn't know that some people try to figure out where I live. I've had that happen before where people DM me and they're like, hey, is this your street? Is this your address? So because I know that 99% of you are not like that, but the 1% that tries to dox me can cause legitimate issues, and I'm not the only one living here. So it'd be one thing if I lived by myself. I'd be like, yeah, I don't care if some people figure out what I live, but my wife lives here and I care about protecting her and making sure she feels comfortable. So I'm not comfortable. She's asked me to, of course, keep my location as private as possible. Makes sense. So if I showed you the outside of my house and where the circuit box is versus where the car parks, you would understand, okay, a wall connector makes absolutely no sense at this setup. You'll just have to take my word for it. It would be so impractical. It would be so expensive to get one installed, and it will not charge that much different. Again, I don't drive that much. I do road trips. I would say on average, I'm driving between 30 miles, maybe 45 miles a day, and I can get that out of 1 hour of charging with the NEMA outlet. So it's not that big a difference. To go with the wall connector, I could regain that in an hour, or in the NEMA outlet, I would gain it in 2 hours. It's not a big deal. And I plan on charging overnight. So I appreciate the super chat, but trust me when I say it doesn't make sense for me to get a wall connector. That, and I also don't know how long I'm going to live here. If you live in a place for a long time, it probably makes more sense to get a wall connector. I don't know if I'll be here a long time. Privacy is important, and I know that's annoying because everyone's like, "What, Drew? No one cares where you live," and I'm like, I know, 99% of you don't, but all it takes is one guy to ruin it. Let's see. I do know what I'm talking about when it comes to charging. Plug it in, the car tells you how long it will take for a full charge. Yeah, I'm telling you, a NEMA 1450 outlet does not take 48 hours to charge. That's ridiculous. It charges at between 25 to 30 miles an hour. That's stats from Tesla. And if your range is 270, that means that in under 10 hours, you would have a full charge going from 0 to 100%. And again, you don't drive to 0% every day, especially me. You definitely don't charge to 0% every day. You charge to, for my daily driving, I'm probably going to charge to like, I'm probably going to drive, I'll start at 100% and drive down to like 80 and then charge up again overnight and then charge, use it until maybe 50% on a heavy driving day. So yeah, trust me, it's not, the wall connector is not that important. And that comes after watching several Tesla owners experience. I watched like 5 different channels with Teslas review the NEMA outlet versus the wall connector, and basically all of them said that the NEMA outlet is fine and gets the job done, and the wall connector is pretty much only good if you care about appearances. They didn't say that the charging speed provides a unique advantage, because it's pretty close anyway. That in the standard range plus is limited to 32 amps anyways. Yeah, it's not a big deal. J22 says they definitely still do loaners / rentals and Uber credits. Well, I hope you're right. I want them to still do that. I'm just saying I'm seeing reported stories on Reddit of people saying they don't offer that anymore. So do you think those people are lying? Like, Living with EV says correct. On the NEMA 1450, my Model 3 charged at 29 miles per hour. There you go. So in under 10 hours, you can charge from 0 to full. Don't be going around telling people that it takes 48 hours to charge off the 1450. Maybe on the 110 you'd have a point, but that's not what we were talking about. 110 outlets are what take forever. They're what take forever, but I still know a lot of people, like Randy charges off the 110 outlet and he's fine. If you're not driving like 50 plus miles a day, 110 outlet will get the job done. It also depends on how long you're charging, because some people come home at 5 o'clock and they don't leave for work until the next day, until like 8 o'clock. So you're charging for like 15 hours. 15 hours at 3 miles an hour, that gives you like 45 miles of range, which is more than the average daily commute. So if you're driving 30 miles a day, 110 outlet's fine. Borgranta says, will you be delivering Uber Eats with your Tesla since gas is not an issue and you could do Uber Eat ride-along videos and streams, which could earn you a ton of money on your tech and EV channels? Wow, that's an interesting idea. I don't know if, I live in a pretty rural area. I don't know if Uber Eats is a thing here. It might be, actually. I'm not sure. I've never used it here. There's nearby cities that use it I could drive to, I guess, but I don't know. Like, one thing I should just take a moment to do right now is say thank you to the people super chatting and the people watching the live stream and watching the channel, because you enable me to have this dream job where we get to just talk about whatever we feel like talking about. We can talk about charging, we can talk about supercharging cost and Tesla prepping the subscription for non-Teslas and Cybertruck news and Tesla semi news. Like, I enjoy this. This is a lot of fun. And the reason I'm so grateful for you guys and the reason I love doing these live chats is because I feel like I get to know your guys' opinion better and I get that real-time interaction. But I enjoy my job. It doesn't feel like a job to me. This is like just hanging out. It feels more like a hobby. And because you guys have been so awesome and so supportive, especially the Patreon members as well, which I'll shout out here in a minute, I don't need to do those kind of traditional jobs, whether it be Uber Eats or, you know, I don't need to have a day job or whatever. I can live off of this. Michael says gonna super chat right now to prevent Drew from doing Uber Eats. Don't worry, you don't have to super chat, Michael. In fact, I'm just telling everyone now, don't super chat. It's not worth it. I'll read your message. There's not that many people typing in the chat anyway, so it's not worth it. But regardless, I appreciate it. I don't need to drive around doing Uber Eats because, for one, that's going to add unnecessary miles to the car. Sure, I would make some extra money doing it, but I would rather spend that time doing this. I would rather spend that time at home. I'd rather make videos. I'd rather do live streams, and I'd rather make content that hopefully people find entertaining and informative. This is just what I enjoy doing. But I've never tried Uber Eats. You know, maybe I should try it and see if I like it. Maybe if I started doing it, I would enjoy it and take pleasure in it, and maybe say like, hey, I'm having fun with this, and you know, maybe I would. But now I definitely can't because against my wishes, I literally told him not to do this. Michael Burghardt super chatted too late, which is far too kind. YouTube, I'm still waiting on that refund button. Okay, next super chat gets a timeout. If someone super chats, I'm gonna mute them so they can't super chat again. We're not accepting super chats today. You guys are too kind. There it is. Too late. Far too generous. And Bruce Nelson, hey, he's a very loyal follower. I see you in the comments a lot. Thank you to you for providing the information you do, Drew. Wow, that so kind it rhymed. Very nice of you, Mr. Bruce. I'm very grateful for fans like you that stick around for so long. But yeah, even if I did live streaming, I would have to pay attention, so I wouldn't be able to interact with the chat very much. My favorite part of live streaming is being able to interact in real time with the audience. I can see your messages pop up and I can talk about them, so it's like we're having a conversation almost. But if I was driving around, I couldn't really read the chat. Maybe I could catch up on the chat when I stop, but me just driving and being like, yeah, that would be dangerous. I don't want to do that. So one tech reviewer fixed his T-Mobile home internet heating issues by putting it into bridge mode and using dedicated routers and adjusting the MTU to 420. Well, T-Mobile's been pretty good as of lately, so I don't feel like going to those drastic measures. But considering how up and down the service is and the fact that I like kind of testing multiple different internet providers, I'm not really interested in investing a bunch of money into something that's specifically going to work with the T-Mobile gateway, especially if they change it or it breaks or they, you know, there's a good chance I'll just have more useless products that I don't need. If it makes you feel better, I have $80 in App Store credit, and this didn't actually cost me anything out of pocket. Okay, that does make me feel better. Thank you, Michael. Keep it to yourself, though, please. I would rather you use that credit on yourself than pointless super chats. Because you could talk to me on Discord whenever you want. Alpha says, "Don't worry, I'm too busy saving for a Tesla to super chat." That's good. That's a much more worthy investment. Tesla stock or Tesla vehicles is a much better way to spend your guys' money. Now that the Tesla fund is complete, I'm not pushing anybody. The one thing I will ask for, I don't even feel like asking for it. If you know about the Talos of EV podcast by now, you know it's like we're trying to get that channel up to 1,000 subscribers so that we can make it monetized and actually get ad revenue off of that channel. But you either know about the podcast by now or you know about it and you don't care. So I'm not going to try to push people on that. Whatever. If you don't want to watch it, that's fine. No big deal. No big push. Do it. Just watch what you want to watch, you know? Let's just let the YouTube be its own free market. If people want to watch my channel, they can watch mine. If they don't, they can watch someone else's. I've got no problem with that. I'm just excited that hopefully in the not too distant future, I'll be able to live stream like this from within my car and talk about my ownership experience instead of wishing that I had a Tesla like I have for years and talking about one day driving it with autopilot and one day charging it, and hopefully one day I can just actually be a part of it. But frankly, it's getting pretty hot in here, and for the sake of audio quality, I don't have the fan running, so you might notice me getting sweaty. So I think I might as well wrap up here, but I definitely want to give a special shout out to all of our enhanced and executive members of Patreon, which includes Joshua Vinnick, Dennis P. from the Best Cell Phone Plans podcast, Dr. Mark Choi, who is a dentist in the Woodland area, Bennett Williams, Joshua Levitsky, Robert Brindle, Matt S., and Alex Ding. All of you guys, thank you so much for your extra generous support on Patreon. If you want shout outs, just check out the Patreon link. If you want me to shout out your channel or your name or whatever, that's what those people are signed up for. And you guys are, even though the Tesla fund is complete, the Patreon's going to help pay for insurance, which is likely going to go up quite a bit, and of course rising electric bills. So it's still going into producing content, just not directly towards the car anymore. Living with EV says, time to accessorize your upcoming Model 3. I agree. I've been talking to a few people about accessories that I want to get. But yeah, I appreciate you all for tuning in. I had a good time, and I hope you did too. And we'll chat more later. Thank you all for watching. Have an excellent rest of your day. Bye-bye.